Good afternoon and welcome to Coffee Chat. We are sitting outside here at Grace today instead of by the fireplace with my co-host today, Chelsea Howlett. I'm so sorry. She is the director?
The executive director
of the Noise Home here in St. Joseph, Missouri. And so I asked Chelsea to come out here and talk with me today. Just thought we'd change it up a little bit and do it outside and didn't know it was going to be windy. So anyway, should have known up here on the hill, Grace is always kind of windy. But thank you so much for coming. This is our coffee chat that we do on Facebook. And I didn't bring coffee or anything like that. But like I said, we usually do it at the fireplace and we just kick back. So what I want you to do is just relax and just talk to me. And what I'd like for everybody to get to know is who you are and a lot about Noise Home and what you guys do out there. So to kick us off, what I always ask first is, how did you come to know Jesus Christ as your Savior?
Well, my parents had a very strong foundation of faith, and they brought me into our church, our home church, which was Bethlehem Lutheran Church in Crete, Nebraska, where I'm from.
Okay.
And so I grew up in the church. Ended up actually my senior year, I transferred from a public high school to Lincoln Lutheran in Lincoln, Nebraska, and absolutely loved every moment of it. Wished I had done it so much sooner, and I still have a great connection to that Lutheran education.
Sure, that's awesome. Okay, so you're not from St. Joe.
I'm not. Mm-mm.
So what brought you to St. Joe?
Missouri Western. When I was looking at different colleges, I knew I wanted to test my wings at least a little bit, but I didn't want to get too far away. And ultimately it came down to scholarship money. Missouri Western offered the most, and I wanted to be as debt-free as possible when I graduated.
Good for you. All right, so that brings you to St. Joseph. Mm-hmm. You're married.
I am.
So did you bring him with you? Did you meet him here? How'd that happen?
We actually met each other in, I guess it was like 3rd and 4th grade playing soccer. We were really good friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's actually a funny story that goes with that. My mom was our coach, and the other team did not show up with enough players, and instead of forfeiting, she said, "You want some of my players?" And she put me on the other team. Mm-hmm. And he was a really good soccer player, really aggressive. I know that's, in 9 and 10-year-olds, but nobody would block him. And I'm competitive, even though I was on the other team. So I blocked him 3 times, and he ended up kicking the ball really hard into my chest. I fell down, and I think he thought he killed me or something.
That's a great story.
But we've been just good friends ever since. We didn't start dating until our high school, senior year.
That is so neat. That is got to take the cake on how you met your future spouse. That is so fun. So even though you were playing for his team, you were blocking his shots, and he just got sick of it.
He did. I mean, he was very polite the first couple of times, and then he wanted to win too.
Sure.
So.
I love it. So what's game night at your house?
Well, we have 3 boys under the age of 8. Everything pretty rough and tumble. I also grew up in a family of 3 boys. I have 3 older brothers, so I'm very comfortable with all things boys. We tend to go more outside and play soccer and things like that.
That's fun. Well, Chelsea, I appreciate you letting us in on your life a little bit. Sure. This year with COVID and everything, Grace is not able to do our annual Noise Home Golf Tournament, which breaks our heart. Sure. This is a passion that Grace has, that lots of our people that attend Grace have, is to go out there, throw this awesome golf tournament to raise as much money as we can for you guys to use how you see fit. One of the parts that I love to tell people around the community about this golf tournament is this isn't budget money. So, this isn't going to go pay the lights. This isn't going to pay the heat bill. This is going to be for needs that you guys determine are important, whether it's paying football fees or buying special formula for a baby that just came in that has to have the most expensive form, however you guys see fit. And I just love that. I know in the past, you guys redid a library or made a library and with some of the money, and you've just used it in some really neat ways. So that's how I have a connection to Chelsea, is through the Noise Home Golf Tournament and getting to know you that way. But Grace has kind of worked hand in hand with you guys for a while, besides the golf tournament. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to back it up, and I'd like you to tell me about the Noise Home. How did it start, and what is it now?
Okay, so if I'm going to tell you the history, I have to start pre-Noise Home.
Okay.
1872, a very forward-thinking group of ladies in St. Joseph decided that they wanted to change St. Joseph. They wanted to improve the living conditions for the most vulnerable in their community. So they started with a Bible study group that quickly morphed into a mission-driven organization. And they held bake sales and teas and anything that they could do to raise money. And you have to remember, we weren't too far off of the Civil War. They
Right.
couldn't hold any kind of major wealth or
Right.
property. So the fact that they were able to accomplish creating Home for the Friendless, that was the original name, and they took care of man, woman, or child regardless of their age, their ability to pay, and they actually moved several times over because there was a stigma of that transient population in and out of the rental properties.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mhm. So they purchased a property, the old Beatty property, at the corner of Main and Poulin in the North End, and that became known as Memorial Home. Memorial Home continued to serve all ages until Mr. and Mrs. Charles Noyes, hence the Noyes Home, but our legal name is actually Home for Little Wanderers. When they decided that they wanted there to be a separate children's home, they were always taken by how many children were unaccompanied at Memorial Home. So they ended up purchasing the property and creating a trust that still exists today, which I think is a phenomenal testament to our ladies. And I say ladies because we still have a Ladies Union Benevolent Association, our board that oversees the missions of both Noyes Home and the lesser known sister site of Meadowview Residential Care. So when Noyes Home broke apart from Memorial Home, there was just the aged. That's what they called Memorial Home for the Aged once Noyes Home was established. So individuals that were in senior years that were essentially unable to care for themselves were able to live out the rest of their lives there. In the 1990s, they purchased a property over on Far West Drive near the hospital and built a 16-room facility, a 32-bed facility, but really it's 16 people that we care for, and we still offer benevolence to seniors in our community that are in need of a safe place to live. Medication oversight is provided as well as meals.
Oh, wow.
So I know I diverted off of Noyes Home, but
I appreciate that.
So rarely do people actually know about Memorial Home and Meadowview.
No, that's true because when I was contacting Chelsea about doing this, you had said that one of our emails had the fact that you were also dealing with some stuff at Meadowview, and I was like, what's Meadowview? So, and we've worked hand in hand for a few years,
Sure.
and I've done the Noyes Home even a few years before that. So, yeah, I totally understand that probably not everybody knows that connection.
No, so few people do. When I present out in the community, I always ask, so how many of you know about Meadowview? And maybe one or two hands will pop up, but it's never the majority.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing to talk about too then. Let's not just keep our focus on Noyes Home. But, okay, so now I'm going to bring you back to Noyes Home for a minute.
Yeah.
And we do the golf tournament, but what have you guys done with some of the golf tournament monies?
We've been able to expand our outdoor play area. We've been able to extend our garden classroom area. A lot of things are really, you alluded to some of those needs that we didn't necessarily know to budget for or are more difficult to get our hands on. We'll do our emerging needs each week, but sometimes, like you said, a little baby will come in and have a very specialized formula that's extremely expensive, and until we're able to get that need out to our community, we need to pay for that. We also have kids who are uninsured and may have to have medications. So being able to have an additional set of funds that aren't necessarily earmarked for any one thing, but what we need and the greatest at that moment is incredibly, incredibly wonderful for us.
Good.
Other things that you guys have done, though, recently, you helped build a picnic shelter and picnic tables. The youth came out and did that one year and created an area for us to store all of our playground equipment. So I love getting to see youth helping our youth here at Noyes Home. I think that's phenomenal.
I know we did a carnival one time or a couple of times too, and those are always fun because I know I brought my own biological children to it, and we just got to mingle and hang out with workers and the kiddos that live there, and it was neat. And like I said, being a part of Noyes Home for several years, I've seen like the expansion and the addition of the nursery, with the newborns that come in or whatever. And Noyes Home has expanded, really. What's brought this on?
Well, there was a national research study that looked at child abuse rates and neglect rates for the 0 to 5 population. And now this has been over 10 years ago that this research was done, but it showed that Northwest Missouri had an incredibly high rate of child mortality in the 0 to 5 rates.
Oh, wow.
Due to abuse and neglect. And so St. Joseph actually had a task force that formed to say, what can we do to prevent this from happening in our community? You know, what is it that our community needs in order for our kids that don't really have caregivers outside of the home to be their advocates? And they approached Noise Home and the LUBA board and said, is this something you all would consider? And of course LUBA wanted to help, but the way that I've been told, this predates me, is that they were worried about how they could fund it and sustain it, because
Right.
it is a huge expense.
Right.
When I started at Noise Home, they had not yet opened it. They were just in the process of doing the capital campaign. And we went from having our annual fundraising challenge, if you will, or deficit in the $100,000 to $200,000 range, which we were able to easily fundraise with the help of our community. And it jumped to $400,000 and $500,000 because it was just such a commitment of funds.
Right.
It requires more staffing, and obviously, you know, you mentioned formula, but diapers, wipes, all those things
Yes.
that parents who've had little ones understand how quickly they
Exactly.
grow and how many things they need.
Right.
And so that's been a big challenge, but one that our community has stepped up every bit of the way and helped us to meet those needs and exceed them oftentimes.
That's great. So we're not doing the golf tournament this year, but I know, like, I've had some people call me and say, oh my gosh, okay, I just want to donate my tournament fees.
Okay.
How can they do that?
They can go online to our website, or they can call us up. They could also mail them in. But we do have a Donate Now button on our Facebook page as well as our website. So those would probably be the easiest for those that are tech savvy, and those that would rather write a check and mail it in. I mean, just to our address at 801 North Noise Boulevard.
Okay. So what are some specific needs that you might have right now? Like, okay, say, you know what, I'm not big at just writing a check, but I love to, especially now that things are starting to open up, I want to go shopping. What
Okay.
are some needs that you could say, okay, this is what we need?
Okay, so a sneak peek at this week's emerging need is diaper wipes,
Okay.
infant wipes and toddler wipes. We have right now, our population overall is fairly small, which we're grateful for given everything that's going on.
Right.
But we have, I think, 3 or 4 little ones that we're potty training right now. So the flushable wipes are really helpful because we can make sure that they get extra clean.
Right.
And they can go right down the toilet. But we also have little ones that are in diapers, and we need those infant wipes as well, baby wipes.
Okay. So that's an immediate need. Do you have anything else that you're like, well, it's not like an emergency, but we're always using this?
Okay, pull-ups in
Okay.
sizes that are 2T all the way up to young adult sizes, because it's not uncommon for our kids who have experienced trauma to come to us, and even those that haven't had major traumas, but just the act of living outside of your home is a
Right.
scary thing. So that can cause regression. So pull-ups of all sizes for both genders. We also always need socks and underwear. I mean, the things that you think of at home, you know, that you just naturally buy as you need them, we need, but on a much larger scale. Our average census is typically 35 kids. Now, granted, we haven't seen that this year, but you know there have been times where we've had as many as 52 kids
Oh, my.
above our approved census. So we had a state variance in place to allow for those extra kids who needed a safe place to call home.
Good. So, okay, what can I do to volunteer? Okay,
Okay.
this when everything gets back to normal.
Sure.
What can I do?
Okay, so it really is up to the individual and their level of creativity. So, like right now, I have 3 high schoolers who want to volunteer so badly. They have called multiple times, and I said, you know what, we'll figure out a way. They are not going to volunteer in our house. They're going to volunteer outside to help with grounds work.
Nice.
But we have ways, some people are not necessarily comfortable volunteering with the kids.
Right.
So we have a ton of organizational things that need to happen to go through our donations, to sort them, to get them categorized into summer clothes versus winter clothes in the appropriate size and gender. But we do need people who are willing to work with our kids. Our greatest need when it comes to volunteering is help during study hall.
Oh.
We have an hour every single day that is specifically designated for them to work on their schoolwork. But we don't have a 1-to-1 ratio for staff to kid. And I mean, I know at my own house that having 2 boys that are trying to do homework at the same time and I'm divided between the 2, it's frustrating for them. And
Right.
if they are struggling, they need that extra attention.
Right.
So having volunteers during that time is so immensely helpful. You don't have to have, an advanced degree in trigonometry or anything like that.
Good.
It's basic reading,
Sure.
color identification, basic math skills are really what we need. A lot of times our kids come to us and they are very much academically behind their grade level. And when you learn their story, you can't help but understand why. If you're worried about where you're getting your next meal and if you're going to have a safe place to sleep, you aren't going to care if you know what your spelling words are, or if you know basic addition. So we find oftentimes that kids, once they get to Noise Home and they're there for a couple of weeks, they start to kind of have that sense of, okay, I'm safe, I can do this, I can handle this, and they start to apply themselves with their academics. And it's amazing to see how many of them in a 3-month span, which is typically the average length of stay, go from failing grades to passing, and sometimes even, A's and B's.
That's awesome. That's exciting to hear.
So volunteers that are willing to come in during those times are what we need most.
So do I have to come in and apply?
Okay,
how do I do this?
So there is an application process. Because we are a state licensed facility, we have to go through certain checks and balances to make sure that everybody who's wanting to come volunteer is safe to volunteer.
Sure.
So there is an application. You also have to go through fingerprinting, which is a relatively new addition from state licensing, and a tuberculosis test.
Oh.
If they're unable to do that or unwilling, if you have a good relationship with your doctor, you can usually get a letter from them in lieu of the test. But those 3 things have to be completed before orientation. Once you have all of that done, we also do background checks, but that's all part of the application. We meet with you individually to determine what are your interests and how can it be a mutually beneficial relationship so that you're getting what you are hoping for and our kids are benefiting or our mission's benefiting as most as it can.
Good. I like that. So let's go to Meadowview.
Yeah.
Okay. Almost the same thing there. So what are your needs there right now?
Okay, so we actually have wish lists for both Noise Home and Meadowview on both of their respective websites and Facebook pages.
Awesome.
So if you wanted to go on to Amazon, that's the easiest way. Target, we also have one for Noise Home, but you can go and see the various things that the residents have helped select. Sometimes it's something like crossword puzzles or arts and crafts kits. Oftentimes we need bingo prizes as well. Our residents there love snacks. Diabetic sugar-free candies are always appreciated, as well as little soda cans.
Okay.
They love those. So just the ability to help us have those items available so that it can be something extra special. During this period where we've been sheltering in place, our residents there have probably struggled more than our residents at Noise Home, simply because they're more isolated in their rooms and not able to get out and socialize like they normally do. We actually got them an iPad so that they could do Zoom and Google Duo and be able to see their families, which many of them were like, I don't know about this technology.
Yeah.
But when they got to see their loved ones, that really, just lit up their faces. And I really appreciate when people are willing to think outside of the box and help us there too. Monetary donations are helpful. We do receive compensation for the residents that live there. They do pay a rent fee each month, but it is on a sliding scale, and much benevolence is offered to them.
So can I volunteer at Meadowview?
Absolutely.
What can I do?
There, we tend to need more help with activities such as leading Bible studies, somewhat modified church services for them.
Sure.
We have musicians that come in and play for them, and they do sing-alongs. Arts and crafts are big as well, helping around with planting. Our residents oftentimes like to get out and help a little bit, but because of their age, they aren't able to necessarily do everything. We have one resident who's 104 years old, but she's probably our most active resident there. She sews
Feisty.
Oh, she is. She's great. She makes a fleece blanket almost every single day, and I think there's something like 126 squares that she hand cuts out and sews them. It's pretty phenomenal.
What does she do with them?
She sells them and sometimes gives them away. When she has scraps of fabric, she makes little dog blankets too. So she's frequently giving those away to people who have pets. But
Cute.
It's just a little side business that she does, and it keeps her active, and she says it keeps her young.
Sure. Well, must.
Yep.
That's neat. Well, you said that you have a website for Meadowview and for Noise Home. Would you mind telling us those website addresses one more time?
Sure. It's noisehome.org. and then it's meadowviewresidentialcare.org.
Okay.
And when you look online, on Facebook, it's the Noise Home for Children. I'm almost positive. And then Meadowview Residential Care, I believe, as well.
Okay. Even if you just did probably Noise Home for Children, it would pop up in your search. So.
And we tend to post about each other's sites here recently, especially, so that if you follow one, then you'll get information about the other. And if you want to follow that, then absolutely you can.
Now, if I bought some pull-ups and I don't want to go in your building,
Sure.
Can I just like lay them on your porch, ring the doorbell, and run?
Absolutely, absolutely. You don't even have to run that quick.
Oh, okay.
We'll thank you. And some people want to have a thank you letter or something for in-kind donations, and we're happy to do that. We'll take your information over the intercom system.
The speaker, yeah, it's right there when you go up the steps. The button that I'm talking about. Usually they'll say, "Yes, can we help you?" Because they don't just let anybody in and out the doors. Even me. They stop me. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, they really do. But I'm always like, I need to talk to Chelsea. So they let me in. But you can just say, hey, I'm here to do an in-kind donation. Maybe put like your address on like a Post-it note or something on top of the pull-ups, and leave it there and walk away, and she'll mail you. You'll mail them in-kind letter.
Yep, absolutely. Now, if by chance they aren't able to come Monday through Friday when we're answering the door, we do have a covered porch on the north side of our building, and we are accepting donations there. We are watching as they come so that we can note how long it's been there to be able to have that safety of bringing them inside once enough time has passed.
Good. Oh, that's good. I totally forgot about that. Yeah, you need to leave them out there for a minute. So
unfortunately, yeah. But we do have safety measures in place for those that are dropping it off at their front door. We go out and glove up, and then we have a designated spot before we process it.
Good. Okay. Well, Chelsea, I appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you coming out here and facing the wind. This was just a different idea that I had, and you've fought it very graciously and kindly. So.
Well, originally I had some tears running down, and it was nothing but wind. So
I was just saying, it was when she was telling about her husband, and I thought, oh. but then I thought, well, it could be the wind too, or allergies. But no, I appreciate your time. Appreciate you coming out here and talking to us and telling us about some of the needs. And Grace has always partnered with you guys, and we love Noise Home and what you guys are doing. We love those kiddos. We pray for those kiddos, and as you know, if you guys ever need anything, give us a call. But thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. I appreciate all that you guys do. And there's one other thing that I want to plug, if I can, really quickly.
Sure, go for it.
Okay, we always have our annual Take a Seat event, which is our biggest fundraiser of the year. And with COVID, with so much uncertainty, we aren't sure what the best thing to do is. But clearly, getting together with 500 to 700 of your closest friends isn't likely going to happen this year.
Right.
So we are going to do a virtual event on August 22nd.
Okay.
So please mark your calendars. We will not be charging admission for this particular virtual event. And what's most exciting is we have an anonymous donor who has agreed to match dollar for dollar every dollar up to $250,000.
Oh my word, that's
I know,
awesome.
goosebumps, right?
Yes.
So I'm so hopeful that people will really, cling to this and just help us reach our goal of hitting every one of those dollars. Because how amazing would that be?
That would be awesome. So how do we get registered for this virtual event?
Okay, so more information is going to be coming out. So make sure that you're checking in on our website and our Facebook page.
Okay.
Those that are already donors of Noise Home will be receiving, if they've been recent donors, will be receiving a save the date in the mail very soon.
Okay.
But we'll be posting that everywhere. And I'm hopeful that we'll have a great turnout, and this will give people opportunities who want to learn more about who we are,
right.
The opportunity to do so without having to pay any kind of upfront fee.
Right.
And I pray that we have the best Take a Seat event that we've ever had, because we have the potential to raise $500,000.
That would be awesome.
And in a year where we don't know how fundraising is going to go,
right.
that would be phenomenal.
That's like, praise God, let's go.
Absolutely.
Let's do this.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and thank you for joining us here on Coffee Chat. And maybe we'll see you next week, and maybe we'll be meeting again. I don't know. But anyway, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.